Welcome to 519 Connect, where the Windsor Police Service connects with members of our community. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Welcome to 519 Connect. I'm your host, Constable Jamie Adjetey-Nelson, Diversity Officer for the Windsor Police Service. And today we have a special guest. All my guests are special. Mayor Drew Dilkens. Welcome.
Hey, thanks very much. Glad to be here.
Excited. So, a bio about our mayor. Drew Dilkens is a lifelong resident of the City of Windsor. He holds a business and law degrees from the University of Windsor, go Lancers, and an MBA from Wayne State University. He received his doctorate of business administration from the International School of Management in Paris, with a focus on municipal amalgamation in Ontario. He obtained his charter director designation from the Directors College in 2021, and also holds the professional designation of Certified Human Resources Leader, along with training certificates from the Canadian Foreign Service Institute, Canadian Securities Institute, and Federal Bureau of Investigations in the United States. That's the FBI, everyone, just so you know. He was elected mayor of the City of Windsor October 27th, 2014. He was re-elected on October 22nd, 2018 for his second term. Mayor Drew Dilkens is committed to a program of fiscal discipline and economic diversification. Since being elected, he has continued to focus on improving the city's infrastructure, including roads, sewers, holding the line on taxes, supporting economic development that creates jobs and attracts investments, and positioning Windsor as a destination of choice for looking to build homes, careers, and families. Mayor Drew Dilkens was appointed to the Windsor Police Services Board December 1st, 2014, and was elected to position of chair on January 22nd, 2015. Wow, that's the abbreviated one. It's good. I love this bio.
Thank God that's the abbreviated one.
It's so good. It's got me sweating. I'm like, oh, I know what to expect. Yeah, so welcome. I'm really excited to have you today. 519 Connect, it comes out of service to the community, and this is something where we want to highlight people who are in service to our community. And, when I researched you and looked at your bio, your service to the city started a long time ago and continues. I said earlier, I first knew about you from my sister, who worked auxiliary with you many years ago. She didn't become the police officer I did, so I'm in service as she is as well. So let's talk a little bit about that. What got you involved in wanting to serve your community?
Well, and your sister Christy was a great auxiliary officer, and she's done her own service to the community and some of the things that she's doing. So I didn't even know you two were connected until we sat down to do this interview. And it's great to put the pieces together. Typical Windsor, 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
But listen, I've lived here my whole life. I love this place, and I certainly, probably take inspiration from my grandfather, who was really involved with the community, with the Shriners and through clubs that he belonged to, and he used to take me with him, to do different things in the community. And so I guess, early on, the pattern was set that that's just part of what it's expected of someone, is to give back and be part of the community and help where you can help. And then it's up to you, it's up to every individual to sort of figure out the things that interest them and how they can do something that is worthwhile, but also get some self-fulfillment out of it. And so there's a whole bunch of different organizations I belong to, and I got involved in high school and all sorts of, things at high school that led to, one step led to the next. And you talked about the Windsor Police Auxiliary. 15 years, I was a proud auxiliary officer, and when I left there after getting elected, I had achieved the rank of staff sergeant at the auxiliary, and it really is a unique position. I wanted to be a cop. I should tell you that. I wanted to be a cop. I applied twice. I was in university. I was on the auxiliary. I was the president of Crime Stoppers. I was part of Road Watch. I had done all the things that you think someone might do if they were interested in a career in law enforcement. And both times in my interview, I got to the inspector, the interview stage, and one of them, I sat down with the inspector, and he opened my resume, and he looked, and he says, "Oh, you're still in university?" I said, "Yes, sir. I just finished the second year." He says, "Okay, well, come on back when you're done." And it was literally a 3-minute interview.
Yeah.
And so that was actually a really good experience, because it forced me in some ways. Okay, education is important. I already knew that from my parents, but it forced me to continue. And then what happened after the second interview, where I kind of got the same message, in the off season and the non-summer season, sort of shoulders and winter and part of the fall and into the spring, auxiliary officers ride along with police to regular calls. And I got to go to a call in the West End with Robin Moon and Bob Drago, were the constables then.
Mooner,
and,
yeah.
Mooner. We got to a call, and it was a domestic violence call, and walked into this call, and I will never forget it for my entire life. But husband and wife were assaulting one another, and there was blood everywhere in this kitchen. It was like they had taken a sponge, put it in red paint, and just whipped it around. There was just blood everywhere, and there was this little 1 or 2 year old standing in the middle of this crying, with a dirty diaper and a torn shirt. And I thought, oh my God. And when I saw this and how it unfolded, I went home that night and I said, I don't want to do this. I mean, I have such a strong appreciation for police and the work that they have to do each and every day, but I'm not going to apply again. I don't want to do this as a career. And so it was a great opportunity to get involved, to participate. I stayed on the auxiliary for probably another 10 years after that because I really appreciated the work. But it's, the things you do can change have you turn the page and have you really like something more, or they can help you identify some of the things that, may not be important to you anymore. So every experience, every opportunity is a good chance to build your own character, to build your own knowledge base and have a better understanding and appreciation for what other people do.
Yeah, that's similar story. That's great when you have people along your journey who, they're looking out for you. They could have taken you right there mid-university, but sometimes it's important to complete things you started. And I think they saw that in you and, just give you time to mature. And it puts you in those positions to make those different decisions. I always say there's always different ways to serve your community, right? It could be policing. You continued with auxiliary, but it gave you some time to mature. And I was the same way. I'd gone to university. I was in sports, finished my bachelor's, did faculty of education, and I'm going to be a teacher and be that. But, the time wasn't there for me to go into it. And I did a few more years, and that's where I came into the world of policing. I had different friends who were police officers, and I would talk to them. And that was my research, kind of like your research, going on a ride along, just to see what it was about. And same as a teacher, I wanted to serve my community and educate them. And I thought policing was a different way. And, for you, it came in different areas of service. And for me, it came to policing. So it's cool how just, taking your time, you think you have one goal, but as you research it and you live experience, and I tell people this when I'm in recruitment and when I'm speaking to youth, which is very important. You might have a goal now, but if you continue to do the right things and better yourself, you never know where you're going to end up.
You never know. And so, part of it is getting involved and taking responsibility. And I get lots of young people who apply. They want internships or opportunities at the city or in the mayor's office. And we'll say, okay, we'll send a resume in, and I see the resume, and it says they're involved with like 20 different organizations. They're trying to populate the resume, with everything they can think of to get involved in. And when I see that, and I've told my own kids who are 18 and 20, don't do that. Find the things that drive a passion for you, that you want to go there and help every day. You don't think it's a chore. Find the organization where you think you can give back, that you actually really like going to, and do what you do well. And if you have 1 or 2 things on your resume that you were involved with, that you're going to get people at those organizations who speak really highly of you, as opposed to, all 20 where they're going to say, well, he might have made one meeting, I don't really know much about him. You're going to get a whole lot more value out of doing something really well and building connections and starting a network with 1 or 2 organizations as opposed to 20.
Yeah, it's substance, it's value. I see that too. And I explain to some people, you don't have to be great at everything. So if you have 1 or 2 things you're good at, but like you said, if you're doing 20 different things, what change or what impact are you having there?
Exactly.
when people see you 1 or 2 times? A coach, think of it as coaching. If you only see your coach, once every 2 weeks, how is he impacting your performance? Exactly. And you talk about your resume, and that's important. And, human resources, you see that, you're going to get this resume, and that's how people look at them. Gone are the days it's like, you're here. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, how do you have any time for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it just do what drives the passion inside of you, but do it well.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. and keep building your network. In a community like this, especially, it's we joked at the beginning about your sister, 2 degrees of separation in Windsor. I absolutely believe that. I mean, the connections here are so tight, and everyone knows someone who will know you, somewhere along the way. So, just do what you do really well, build your network, and plant seeds that can grow over the course of your youth and into your young adulthood. And in a community like this, those will ultimately, bear fruit that you can take and use to your advantage, and ultimately help your community at the same time.
Yeah, and then that's happening right now. With what's happening, you have a wealth of education and experience, but I can see what you've done is in that essence, that networking and what it can bring to the area. Sometimes people go out to come back to do that, but I feel like you're homegrown and you've been able to do that. What are some of the things that made you want to go down that route, where it's about kind of like regionalizing the area and not just Windsor, Essex?
Yeah, well, that's a sensitive topic when you start talking about that. And one of the things you talked about my dissertation topic and the work the research that I did, and I really looked at Ottawa, Carleton, I looked at the GTA, and I looked at Windsor Essex pre-amalgamation and post-amalgamation. And the question was there any sort of financial value derived after amalgamation? And the answer was yes, but it wasn't everywhere. Using policing as an example, an officer in the car, whether, LaSalle's paying for it, Windsor's paying for it, or OPP, plus or minus $2,000 or $3,000 a year, it's the same cost to have an officer in a car. Where you derive value is from some of the, the high level operational things, where you're sharing a drug squad, when you're sharing a bomb squad, a dog team, when you're sharing some of those expensive resources, or you're able to distribute the overhead across a larger cost base, then everyone benefits. And look what we've done with Amherstburg. Mm-hmm. Amherstburg looked at the situation with their policing, where they had their own town police force, single police force, and they said, you know what, we have 2 options. I guess we have 3. We can have status quo, and we know what that costs. We can go to OPP, and we know that we'll lose control of the service delivery. Or is there anyone else out there that makes sense to work with? And they came to Windsor, and they put out a request for proposals. We made a submission, and we said, you know what? We think there's a way for you to derive extra value for your residents by having all of the service Windsor police officers have closer to you. So if you need expert services, we can be there in 20 minutes. And at the end of the day, we think we can save you $500,000 a year, your taxpayers, which is huge for a small town. And we also think we're saving money on the Windsor Police side by distributing some of the overhead costs over an additional 30,000 population base. And so at the end of the day, it's better service delivery for the residents everywhere, better opportunities for the employees who used to work for Amherstburg Police. Now they have all the opportunities of the Windsor Police Service. And taxpayers who are paying the bill of the most expensive service that municipalities deliver are actually deriving value. Like, it was win-win-win for everybody. And by all accounts, talking to the mayor of Amherstburg, very, very happy the people there are about the service that they're receiving. And so we'd love to do more. And if you think of police, if you think of fire, if you think of clean water delivery and dirty water treatment, those are really expensive services that, if we could find a way to collaborate, we would find savings for residents everywhere. But the one sensitivity that, I think is understood, and certainly well understood by me, is if the City of Windsor tries to, reach out and say, hey, why don't we have these discussions, the natural reaction on the other side is to recoil in fear that somehow we're trying to, push for amalgamation. All we're trying to do is find a way to deliver services better and more efficiently for the residents that we serve. And I've said to the mayors in Essex County, listen, if we're going to have a conversation, if we can't actually derive benefit for your taxpayers, cut me out. I mean, there's no, I would cut me out if that's the case. But if we can provide better service and save you money, why wouldn't you want to have the conversation?
Yeah, that you use a good term, collaborate. Sometimes people think collaboration is a takeover. It's not. We want, Amherstburg still has their identity as a community. We're just here in service. And when Windsor's doing well, we want our entire area to do well. When you bring investments into the community and things like that, you're collaborating everywhere, and it's not necessarily a takeover. It's to benefit the area. talk about some of the things that just happened recently. I feel like in the last few months, we've been seeing more coming to Windsor, especially, with the border and everything, and how well it's going.
The last month has been incredible. The announcements we've been able to make with respect to the EV battery factory, with respect to the research and development positions, of course, linked directly to our largest employer, Stellantis. And I've shared the story many times in the last month where, it was 1980. My mom was a school teacher. My dad worked for Chrysler Corporation. He retired after 38 years, but in 1980, I was 8 years old. And we had one of those black and white TVs in our kitchen. You had to pull the antennas up, and turn it on, and it took about 15 seconds for it to warm up. And my parents, I remember licking all of the stamps from N&D, into that stamp book. And then we took it to S&M where they got the black and white TV. So that was the TV we had in the kitchen. And my mom and dad were in the kitchen this particular day, and they called us, myself and my two older brothers, into the kitchen. And I thought, well, what are we watching here? It was kind of boring. I didn't quite understand, but I could feel the tension in the room with my dad especially. He was just very, very nervous and fidgety, and just, could tell he was tense. Well, he was tense because that was the day that Lee Iacocca was going to the White House to see whether he could make a deal with the President of the United States that they could take to Congress to save Chrysler Corporation. If he was successful, that meant my dad would have a job, the organization would be viable, and he would continue working. If they were unsuccessful, it meant that Chrysler would be wound up and my dad would be looking for work. And so we sat there until the announcement came in, and Lee Iacocca came out and announced that they have a deal and Chrysler Corporation would be saved. And my mom and dad hugged, and that sort of hard, genuine embrace of relief I will remember forever. And so we weren't at the same situation today. It wasn't as dire today, but the relief I think we collectively felt as a community was the same as the relief my parents showed to one another in 1980. And that is, having lived through watching the auto industry sort of scale back here, watching GM transmission plant pull out, going through the Great Recession and watching government have to step in and save Chrysler Corporation here locally. In 2018, after I was reelected, I'm required to deliver an inaugural address to the community at the first meeting of council. I'm preparing that speech, and that speech was, hey, we're great, we're going to work together. Basically, it was one of those rah-rah speeches that I could give to any mayor in any municipality in the world. They could simply scratch out City of Windsor, put in City of Barcelona, Bangkok, Thailand, whatever you want, and a politician could deliver the same speech. GM announced then that they were closing the plant in Oshawa. And we remember what happened and the sort of the feeling that Oshawa expressed. And so I said, I can't in good conscience deliver that speech to my community today. So I deleted it, and I started another speech which was much more frank. And it was, what happens here if FCA, Chrysler, says we're closing Windsor Assembly Plant, our largest employer? What do we do? What have we done to position the community to be in a better place? And how do we make sure that we don't end up where GM was, and it would be even a more catastrophic situation for us because at least people who live in Oshawa have access to the GTA in terms of employment opportunities. And so from that speech, that led to the creation of Windsor Works, which is our City Council unanimously endorsed, our economic development action plan, our blueprint. In that blueprint, one of the 40-plus recommendations talks about making sure that we're moving into the future economy. We explicitly talk about battery factory, battery technology, and being at the forefront in the automotive sector and retaining our title as the auto capital of Canada, title that was earned from about 1904.
It's powerful.
So how do we do that? And how do we resource that? And what needs to happen here? And so we approved that in, I think, February 2021. And then you fast forward to sort of September, October of 2021. That's when a lot of the conversations on battery factory and the investment Stellantis was looking at making started getting some traction. And you saw Stellantis form a joint venture with a company called ACC in Paris. You saw them then pivot about a month or two later to have a joint venture and form a joint venture relationship with LG. And so we started aiming the cannon, shining the spotlight, I should say, on LG and saying, okay, what do we do to make sure that we're in the mix here? And so a whole bunch of people were doing a whole bunch of work, making sure that we had the right touch points and that we were prepared. And then, LG Stellantis said, okay, we're looking for places to set up a battery factory. And it'll be a $5 billion investment. It's going to be 3,000 jobs. Feel free to bid. What do you have? And we got the land that was ultimately approved. We figured out how to make that happen. And, fast forward now, let's lead to a month ago where that announcement was made, $5 billion investment, 3,000 jobs. It is not just, a small thing. This is a total game changer, turning the page. We are at the forefront of technology, where the auto industry is going. And I've said before that this is not just some small pivot. This is analogous. What's happening here, the shift that we see happening here to electric vehicle batteries, is analogous to where they were when the horseless carriage started and the move to the internal combustion engine. It's that big, and the impacts will take 20, 30, 40 years to fully be felt in the community. But it'll be well-paying jobs and great investment here for that period of time because of that one operation. So we moved all chips in the center. Province and feds, they have a formula that they use to determine their investment, and they did what they had to do. And then our beta here was, what do we give? What is our value add to this? And so City Council acquired the land. We are waiving development charges. We are giving a tax-free increment for 20 years. We haven't done that before. And that was our way to say we are serious players and we want this. And the folks at Stellantis have said to me, but for the city's contribution, we don't think the battery factory would have come to Windsor. And so people in Windsor should be really happy, even though it's costing us some money, that this will lead to decades of prosperity for the community. Then you layer on the announcement last week. The Prime Minister was here, the Premier was here, all the ministers, and it is 650 new engineering jobs in the Advanced Research and Development Center for Stellantis, focused on battery research, technology, and development. Incredible, well-paying jobs. In addition to an announcement that the line at Windsor Assembly Plant will be upgraded to handle not just the hybrid Pacifica, but an electric vehicle line as well, which means there will be an electric vehicle product announced sometime in the future, and the cementing of the second shift, and then the return of the third shift. All of these things layered together are absolutely incredible for our city, for frankly our entire region. I finally have a bit of that sigh of relief that, okay, we're cemented now. Now it's like looking forward again 5 or 10 years. What do I have to do to make sure that we're taking full advantage of what's coming here, the supply chain, all of the other opportunities that will come. So we're excited. The community should be excited, and it's huge news for this region, and will pay dividends for decades.
The reflection on that's great. Because we sometimes, when great things are happening like that, we can focus on we did it. But you said it there. You're like, okay, we got one thing done. There's something more. What's next? And this, this investment, this development, this technology, all coming to Windsor and Essex, it filters down right to elementary schools, to different programs within the city. Like, this is something that has a ripple effect. That's a positive one for our community. And it doesn't come alone. I know you talk about the council. A lot of work is being done behind the scenes, and a lot of reaching out. Can you speak to some of those connections, like you said, that networking, within the city, like those conversations? What are they like? I feel like you're just going proposal, but sometimes you speak about it. And when you talk about Chrysler, my father works at Chrysler, and I get that same feeling. When they had cut those shifts, everyone has that gut feeling, mm-hmm. And it's good to hear that it's on the mound. Like, you created Windsor Works because it's important to families, the things around Chrysler. So what was those conversations like?
Well, this is personal to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And go back to 1980. I mean, this is Chrysler Corporation fed my family. Mm-hmm. And so this is, and I know the importance of this operation to our city. This is personal to me. And so that's why it's so, in many ways, relieving that there's a sense of relief that we were able to deliver on this, and that our contribution actually helped get it over the line, because, damn well not going to be the mayor who, wanted to be there and lose the deal and see some other mayor announcing that they gave $10 million more, and now they've got this huge, $5 billion investment. So it was a bit of an art as opposed to a science to figure out what the city had to do to be successful here. But I'll tell you, there are a lot of people involved, a lot of people at the city, a lot of people at Invest Windsor Essex, who are creating touch points and creating connections with the LG folks. But I said this when the Prime Minister was here in my remarks. I said, let's not forget that even within Stellantis as an organization, it's a global organization. So they have different business units in their own organization that are fighting for investment, that then the board at Stellantis has to decide, okay, this is going here, this is going there. They're making those decisions. So Windsor was never, even with the best proposal, we were competing against other jurisdictions within the Stellantis family where this investment could have gone. So, credit also has to go out to the team at Stellantis here locally in Canada, who know what we have to offer, who are fighting on the inside to get the board to make the decision and ultimately, help deliver on the Stellantis side. So there are things that you see that are obvious. There are things you don't see and people working on it that you don't see. And then there are things happening that aren't in your control that you don't even know about. And so it really is, how do you put your best foot forward? What are you prepared to do? Because you are in a hyper-competitive marketplace and you can take nothing for granted. This is serious business. You can take nothing for granted. And so, I think everyone appreciates that we didn't take anything for granted. We put our best foot forward. And it's not free, but the underlying value. So we're acquiring about $50 million worth of land. Taxpayers will continue to own that land. We're not just giving it away to the company. We're leasing it to them at a very affordable rate. But we will continue to own that land. Of course, that land will appreciate in value over time. So we're going to fund it over a period of time. But our investment is unlocking 3,000 jobs plus all of the spinoff that would come from the community. And I'm really happy that we turned the page and are able to deliver on this.
Oh, it's great. You said something competitive. Windsor, sports, everything. I think people forget about that sometimes. I always hear, Ontario stops at London, right? But people don't understand how competitive Windsor is at all levels. And you talk about it, what we have here, what we had to offer. And, it is sad for other, areas that had made a bid for this. But that just shows how competitive we are at all levels. When there's been games brought here and people are like, wow. I feel like that moment has now put us on a different stage. We're more. Windsor's more. And you're on a lot of committees. It happens. And when you start going on those committees, does it empower you more to see like, wow, what we're doing? Because you get to see what's behind the scenes.
I think what it does is it gives you a frame of reference, that you can take from one committee to the next or one board meeting to the next. And, the question, everyone is often operating in their own sphere. And when you have cross-pollination on boards, you can start drawing the power that one organization might have that they don't even realize what another organization's doing in the same community. How do you draw the benefit of both organizations as an example to say, we'll be better. 1 + 1 could actually equal 3 if we figure this out. And so that's the kind of thing that we like to do on the city side with the boards that I'm on, the organizations I'm involved with, is how do we unlock and unharness the power that we have here as a region. And I think, we've been the auto capital of Canada since the early 1900s, and no one knows our business better than we do. And so, being successful in the last conversation here about the battery factory, being successful, and that shows that we can punch above our weight, that no one knows our business better than we do, and that we're willing to be serious players in the future in this industry as well. And so lots of exciting things going on, and people who want to discount Windsor, I wouldn't do that, because we're going to punch above our weight and we're going to surprise you.
Hi, my name is Ed Armstrong. I'm the Inspector of Professional Advancement with the Windsor Police Service. With this position, I oversee our training branch, community services, as well as recruitment. As you know, Windsor is one of the most diverse communities in Canada. With that being said, our goal is to ensure that our police service represents our community. If you know anyone from your community that believes in our core values and will be an asset to our organization and serve the community with honor and service, the Windsor Police Service is currently accepting applications for the position of cadet. We encourage you to have them apply. Although patrol and ensuring the safety of our community is our #1 priority, the Windsor Police Service offers different departments that may interest you. To name a few, our Major Crimes Branch, our Forensic Identification Unit, Emergency Services Unit, and our Marine Unit. Which one interests you? So you want to know how to become a cadet? Simply visit our website at windsorpolice.ca under the Career tab, or visit oacpcertificate.ca. I'm sitting at my desk waiting to see your application.
Something like Walkerville. I mean, Walkerville ceased to exist as a town in 1935. None of us were born, and it just ceased to exist. But if you said to me, "Hey, Drew, I hear there's this place called Vito's Pizza. Where is it?" I'm going to say it's in Walkerville, and you'll know exactly. You know, your frame will know reference will know exactly where that is. Sandwich Town, the oldest part of our community. You know, it's never lost its identity, even though it became part of Windsor in 1935 as well. And so, you know, last night at City Council, we actually approved unanimously moving forward on planning studies that, you know, really correspond and they tie into economic development. So people have seen what we've done in Walkerville with theming and districting there, and you see the plans that the Rosatis and Mike Berkovich have to really probably spend $100 million more to really further develop and build on the organic growth we've seen in Walkerville. That will certainly be bolstered by the investments we'll make as a city in theming and districting to bring alive that distillery district. You know, we have the oldest distillery in North America right here. And I've often said if it wasn't for Hiram Walker, this city would be a shadow of itself because of Canadian Club and Hiram Walker's success, he paid for the police, the fire, the streetlights, the sewers, the water. He paid for everything for the residents who lived in Walkerville. And so when Gordon McGregor met Henry Ford and they opened the first Ford factory in Canada here in Windsor, they located directly adjacent to the distillery site because all of the services were there and they could easily pull them to open that factory, which led to the birth of Ford City. Mm-hmm. So Hiram Walker as an individual is someone that we need to celebrate. We ought to celebrate each and every day, and we are going to celebrate. City Council approved funding to create a statue of Hiram Walker, a bronze statue. That has been done. Local artists created it. It's been back in Windsor for a few years. COVID put the dampers on the actual unveiling. But on Hiram's 206th birthday on July 4th of this year, we're going to have the official unveiling. We're going to have a street party on Devonshire Road, and we're really going to celebrate this community leader, this community builder, that, you know, if it wasn't for him, I say, and I mean it, Windsor would be a shadow of itself. We'd be a much different place. So we're going to celebrate that man and that individual, but taking the theming and districting concepts that we've learned and the importance of those things, we're going to build on that. So last night we approved undertaking the studies for Riverside, for Ford City, for Sandwich Town, downtown theming and districting. People are saying, you know, it's not the same as it used to be. We want to help bring downtown alive again, and then Wyandotte Town Center. So there was a proposal put forward a number of years ago, which City Council wasn't excited about, and this will lead a process that, you know, that area which in many ways people identify as sort of a Middle Eastern village, how do we build on what's happening there and bring to life and celebrate the people who live there, the businesses that are open there, and create a vibrancy in all of those areas that have not lost their identity. They haven't. And so this is about us bringing alive the community that, you know, used to exist years ago, that has evolved, but celebrating the history at the same time, which makes it interesting. And so we're going to spend some money and do that. And they're really great investments that, you know, will create a lot of different economic development opportunities. And you'll see a lot of building and construction from the private sector come as a result of the work that we're going to do. Yeah,
moments like those and those ideas, you said it right. Sandwich Town, I think of it, and everything. Those did have their identities. Like, we still call it that, And like you said, they don't lose their identity once they start working together. And, with Gordie Howe coming there, our office, the community service is at Brock, and we see it and we see what it can be. And it's something that's amazing. And to see that, we're going back that way, and all the different things happening kind of filters down into it. Whether it's the education by the university, the schools, they're all going to be a part of that. I think the development will be everywhere, because it bolsters something exciting, hopeful. And I think those with COVID, coming out of COVID, there was a lot of down. So what's coming next, it's really good to hear that it's been talked about, it's been in the planning, it just didn't happen now. There's been forethought on this in the city, and I think that happens everywhere. And as the more we hear about it, it's going to be good to see.
Yeah, and there's no doubt COVID was a damper for a lot of us. I mean, let's all admit it wasn't a very pleasant 2-year experience that we shared together, and it impacted each of our lives and our families in different ways. And so now that there's a sense that we're getting to a better place, more people are vaccinated, and we're figuring out how to live with this. The question is, how do we get back to normal, and how do we start making sure that we're planting the seeds to build a community? And the best part of building community like Sandwich Town as an example, or Ford City or Riverside or downtown, is use Sandwich Town as an example, and Walkerville. I mean, all of the elements there are so authentic. I mean, it's not like we're fabricating Disneyland here. These elements, the DH, the Duff Bobby House, the old jail, like all sorts of these elements that are there, Mackenzie Hall, they're authentic. And the city's already started investing. I mean, we took the old coach house and the old fire hall there on Mill Street, and we renovated and built this new John Muir Library.
Yeah.
We could have built a library twice the size for half the price if we had just done, modern construction, but it was important for us to make sure that we built a library that built on the heritage in this heritage area. And so it's that type of investment with that, we're making ourselves in our own heritage buildings of the city, but when we put the theming and districting plans together, it will incent the private sector who owns land in the area to say, okay, if we do this, this, and this, we can unlock money that will help build the character of the neighborhood. And when you get one success story, then the next person says, hey, they made money, let us look at what we can do with our land, and you keep building on that success. And then ultimately you end up with a more vibrant community where you have more properties paying more tax dollars to the city, which helps reimburse the costs that we're going to spend on the front end. But it becomes a destination, not just for tourists, but for people who live here who say, I want to go to Sandwich Town. I want to have that experience. I want to go to Walkerville and be part of all of these different experiences in our own city. And part of it is getting people excited about their own city. Windsorites, notoriously, we were somewhat our own worst enemy from time to time, not being super excited about the things that we have, not thinking we're worthy of having great investments and some of the things that you see in other cities. We are. We've shown you with the WFCU Center. We've shown you with the Aquatic Center. We've shown you with investments in our waterfront. We're showing you with what we're doing in Walkerville and all throughout the city. We're trying to have world-class amenities here because the people here deserve it. Healthcare, another example. People here deserve it. They expect it. We're delivering on it. And the thing is, how do we keep delivering for a decade into the future? That's what these planning studies put us in a position to do.
Yeah, it's that feeling of, yes, we can. Yes, we can do it here. And come and see it. That's where I feel Windsor is, and the opportunities are here. And like you said, as that investment, as those success stories have, it's great for the community, for them to have things to do where they can rely on stuff that's community based, or instead of being private, it opens up because those companies want you to enjoy the area because it's just good for everyone. That new outlook. Everyone likes new, but also, like we said, keeping that identity of the area.
It's authentic. I remember, listen, I got raked through the coals on bright lights. And I recognize we approved bright lights, a $3 million expenditure the day before we had the worst flood in the city's history. So it seemed to some like we had our priorities wrong, when in fact we've invested lots and lots into sewer infrastructure, and we will moving forward with our multi-billion-dollar sewer master plan. But once people saw bright lights, all of that sort of trepidation they had on approving it, once they saw what we were talking about for them, I mean, it's a free family experience, then they started saying, okay, I see what he's trying to do. And the same thing at the waterfront. We're talking about getting that streetcar. You know, we were the first community in Canada to have an electric streetcar system. Not Toronto, not Montreal, not Vancouver, Windsor, Ontario. Yeah. We had, if we were to replicate the streetcar system that was in place that ceased to exist in 1938, it ran from 1886 to 1938. If we were to replicate the system that went all the way to Amherstburg and you know, the SW&A line out to Walkerville and that, about $5 billion to put that track back in the ground, get the cars, and put the electric infrastructure that would need to drive the system. $5 billion is what we had here at the time. And so celebrate that. That's why we got the streetcar. It was one of the 210 that operated on the lines here during that time. We restored it. It's beautiful. And now we got to put it somewhere. So we consulted with the public. They said, put it on the waterfront, and we're going to have this wonderful experience. We have this $1 million view of a waterfront. You'll actually be able to go and have a drink or a pop, some snacks, and you'll be as close to the water as you could be anywhere else but for the Windsor Yacht Club. But you have to be a member to go in there. Yeah. So Windsorites are going to love it when they see it. But, you know, we often sort of are negative up front. And then once you see it, if it's done right, they love it and they appreciate it. And I'm sure the streetcar and that beacon they're going to love as well.
Yeah, like you said, we talked about before, you got to be ready for all that criticism that comes before and that banter. But once it gets here, that feeling you get, it's euphoric. It's good for you. And it's not just only the feeling, like you said, everything else that comes with it. If you build it, they will come. And you can see it. People are coming to Windsor. So the growth of Windsor's happening, you know, roads, infrastructure, you know, economics, everything. You know, what are some of the opportunities, platforms in Windsor that are happening to, you know, kind of bolster what's happening to this growing community?
Yeah, we have net population growth in our CMA, our Census Metropolitan Area, which we haven't seen for decades. And so that's a really good thing. It also puts some pressure on our public services, making sure that we have enough transit to meet the needs of a growing population, that the road infrastructure is appropriate, that on the back end, the sewer infrastructure, when you're flushing the toilet or need clean water, that all of those pipes and the treatment of the same is there to handle a growing population. And so I think Lakeshore just last week talked about a 30,000 home subdivision that they're preparing for. Well, there's a lot of stuff that has to be built in order to service that type of population growth. And so all of those things are constantly monitored and worked on from a city perspective all the time to make sure that there's never a gap that we can deliver. But when it comes to, you know, looking forward as a community, I think, you know, looking at the construction of the Gordie Howe Bridge, 2024, 2025, when it opens, we can see the pillars, the towers that are up right now. It's very impressive. And people have often said, oh, you're so lucky. You've got, you know, Canada's largest infrastructure project happening in your community. And there's no doubt the jobs that are created, you know, over the course of 5 years or 6 years during construction are amazing in their own right. The question is, what are we doing to harness the power of our geography to take advantage of this infrastructure that will be highway to highway connection? Like there will be trucks getting on the bridge going in either direction that never have to stop in the city of Windsor or Detroit. They just simply drive through. And so we're trying to create, again, lifting the head up and looking and scanning on the horizon. What do we have to do to take advantage of and position this community to take advantage of that strategic infrastructure? How do we create the largest, or how do we have a business park that is the closest one to the U.S.-Canada border, something that Stephen McKenzie and the team at Invest Windsor Essex can sell to prospective investors, that I can sell to prospective investors, that anyone can sell to prospective investors, because our geography plays an important part in that topic. Looking at the hospital, all of the work that's gone in since it's been 10 years. 2012 is when the first conversation, and I was there at the meeting when the three individuals came to City Council from different political parties saying, we need a new regional hospital. We need to start the process, and we want to have a conversation. And so 10 years later, we finally got the $10 million. The work is ongoing. The land has been acquired. We know what's going to happen and where it's going to happen. But that was 3 years to get $10 million to move to the next phase. We're talking about the next one being a $2 billion investment.
Ooh, that's
3 years to unlock $10 million. And we don't have anyone here. There's no one in provincial government who's a conservative locally, helping to push the water uphill on this regard. So I can only do so much. And I talk to the Premier all the time and try and advocate, and he's extremely receptive, but he's got, how many MPPs on the inside who want hospitals and investments as well. So we really need to elect someone who can be part of government, whoever you think is going to form, not who you want to form, but look strategically and say, who is going to be the next government of Ontario? And please send us some reps that can be at the table advocating to get the hospital project over the finish line, because that will be 1,100 direct jobs, about 4 years to construct that project, and then you'll see a boom in the Sandwich Southlands around that. And so, we put out a platform for Windsor during this provincial campaign. It talks about investments in the hospital. It talks about connecting Lausanne Parkway to the 401 to help with this business park that we'd like to create. And it talks about all sorts of, investments in economic development, making sure that we can continue to build on the success that we've seen here and deliver results for the residents in this region.
Wow. That's, that more collaborating, more advocating for Windsor, more showing that we're competitive, and it's never-ending job. And you got to get that from somewhere, and you're stimulating the area. And let's talk about our youth, because, we'd all love to do this forever. But like you said, there's a succession plan, and it doesn't just start directly around us, but the youth. What are some of the things you're doing with the youth in the community that are kind of bolstering, whatever it is to stimulate growth in Windsor?
So it's a good question. I have a son who's 18 and a daughter who's 20. And so when people talk to me about affordable housing, which I know is one of the central issues at all levels of government right now, affordability, I think of them. I'm thinking of long gone are the days where, you'd see a house for $180,000, you'd offer 150 and hope to get in at 165, Yeah. We see what's happening in the real estate market, and we've seen the escalation in prices. We see what's happening with gas costs and inflation costs at the grocery store and restaurants and everywhere else. And so I'm concerned about that for them and helping them have the joy of home ownership. Sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's not, but at least building equity is the point. And so, my frame of reference often is my own kids and their ability to stay here and have a good life like we've had in the City of Windsor. And so there's so many things that we're doing, but I'll talk about the Mayor's Youth Leadership Team, which is a committee that we've had. We used to be called the Mayor's Youth Council. Then we changed it to the Mayor's Youth Leadership Team. And basically, we put out a call. We had a lot of kids who put forward their resumes, wanted to be part of this. And basically I said, if they live in Windsor, I want them on the committee. Let's give them all a chance. And there's a whole training program that these kids get to go through. And during the training program, they learn how to get involved. They learn some of the important things from a city perspective. They learn about civility and decorum and respect. And then we give them opportunities at events in the community where we give them a special jacket or a blazer or a uniform that has them stand out, but actually take leadership roles at events that are going on that, are important. And it gives them a chance to be somewhere where many other kids don't have a chance to be. And so we try and build some capacity that way, because you're right. I'm not going to be the mayor of the city forever, and the city council is not going to be, the city council forever. That's going to continue to change, and policing is going to change, and everything's changing, right? That's the constant in the world is change. Change is constant. And so how do we look, below us and say, how do we build capacity, develop skills, and give people opportunities? In my office today, I have another young student who's starting for the summer, a paid internship in the summer to help, develop some skills, see what happens in the political arena, because you don't often get the opportunity. Young kids don't often get that opportunity. And I interfacing with so many folks in the community, I want to help build capacity where you have people considering a life of politics, because it's important to have the skills. And, I think a lot of people, they look at it and they may say, oh, look he's there with the Prime Minister, or he's in the newspaper, or I hear him on the radio, and they think of the glamour side. What they may not see is all the slicing side of social media and some of the stuff that, you have to deal with in these positions. And so if they do see that, it may be off-putting to some people. So how do we give them the skills to be able to even consider this as a career choice? Not that you want career politicians, but you want people who will put themselves in the position to make good decisions, recognizing that being on city council or being an elected official, at least in Windsor, speak for myself here, Long gone are the days where you just want someone who's passionate about community service. This job is way more important than that. You're dealing with a $900 million budget and several different important business lines. It's complex, and you've got different funding sources. You've got a lot of stuff going on. You need people who are smart. You need people who have skills, who have something to offer. And embedded in whoever runs for council, you just expect anyone who wants to be a councillor or mayor that they love their community and they want that. That's just foundational. That's not enough anymore. And so we're working with the Mayor's Youth Leadership Team to try and, really take a group of interested people, young people who've put their names forward to say, how do we build capacity? How do we build strength with these folks and expose them to some opportunities that not everyone would have?
Yeah, it's creating opportunity because experience is important. And the youth should value that. The community should value that, is giving our youth those opportunities to venture out if they do, but when they're done, come home, back home. And they have, and like you said, it's creating that passion is very important, but seeing what's behind the scenes, whether it's post-secondary education, whether it's getting your hands dirty and involved in that. And that's great that those opportunities are being created at the mayor's office. And I always say, I think everyone should take that as an example. I know as a police service in the community service branch, we want to put youth in those positions so they can excel. So like we talked about earlier, having that resume where there's value in that. So that's great. And we appreciate that. And a community should. I think we do. I think the kids who work with you and the community is excited for what's next for Windsor. So I want to thank you for coming on today. This is it was a lot. I learned a lot. Sometimes I feel like I knew what was going on, but sitting here and listening to you talk about your passion for Windsor and that connection with your father working for Chrysler, and it's different in each generation, but it's important that we're thinking about our community and its growth, its investment, and that we are competitive. Windsor can do well and is doing well. So thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll tell you, before the announcements of the last month, if we had just talked about the hospital and the bridge, all of the incredible record building permit development, even during a pandemic, we can hardly keep up with the building permit applications that are coming in, the housing growth that we're seeing. I have said to folks, I have never been more optimistic about the future of the community, but for today and everything that I'm seeing, not just on the public sector side, but on the private sector side. You layer on, what's happened in the last month, and we talked about Stellantis. We also forgot to talk about Amazon announcing a small little distribution center here with 300 jobs. But, it's kind of like a trifecta that's happened in 30 days' time. These investments are monumental in addition to all the good stuff that was happening. And it only reinforced it only reinforced my belief that, boy, bright days are ahead here. I am just ultrally optimistic about the future of the community. It is unlike any other time that I've seen in our history. And it's incumbent upon all of us to be ready for this. And you talked about education, and it doesn't have to be law school and engineering, and there's many different pathways here. We need skilled tradespeople desperately in the city as a whole. But what I saw, and I had a chance to go to Poland a few weeks ago to see the LG Energy Solutions factory that's there. I have never seen in my entire life this type of high-tech automated production facility like the one I saw in Poland. And I talked to the chief technology officer. He's actually the same fellow. He's from South Korea, but he's coming to Windsor to open Windsor's plant. And he said to me, if you think that what you saw here was impressive, we operate on a technology scale of 2.0. This factory here, which is about 3 times the size of Plant 3, it's massive, is a 1.7 out of 2.0. What's going to open in Windsor is a full 2.0, and when it opens, it will be LG's factory with the most amount of automation and technology anywhere in the world. And you think automation and technology, yeah, it's still going to employ 3,000 people across the spectrum. You can be a robot technician from St. Clair College. You can be an engineer in chemistry from the University of Windsor. We need unskilled labor, to do assembly and parts at the end of the packing and the modules that will come out the other end. There is a full spectrum of job opportunities that this will create. But foundational is education, making sure that whatever drives your passion on the education side, that you complete a program. The more you can complete in science, technology, engineering, and math, the better opportunities you will have with this organization moving forward. But the future is bright. Our city's future is bright, and I am just super excited.
There it is. There it is. Education, career paths. It all blends together and works together. Thanks, Drew, for coming on. This was a successful 519 Connect, and you know what? I look to speaking to you again after all these great things are happening, and then talk about those 10, 15, another 40-year projects that we're looking to bolster in Windsor.
And then you can get into the questions Ron Grosset had you posed to me you didn't get to today.
All right. There you have it, 519 Connect. Find us on all your platforms. We appreciate you tuning in, and thank you, Mayor Drew Dilkens.
Thanks, Jamie.